Good evening and welcome to the driver's briefing video for round one, Australia at Bathurst. We're just going to go over some of the key features that we've covered in the written driver's briefing, but just to explain and go through, particularly for new drivers, some of the things and driver actions that need to be undertaken. First of all, we'll run you through the event settings, which obviously you'll be able to view in tomorrow night's race before you start, but just to whiz over them. So this is based on the main race. I will go over the sprint race as well in a moment, but the main race will be a 29 lap race. The sprint race will be 16 laps for the GT class, but for those that qualify from the GT class and the GT Pro drivers, 29 lap race, which will be in and around an hour. The weather, as in all races, is set to custom, so it'll be random weather. However, here in Australia, it's one of the tracks that doesn't have the wet weather effect. So although it may change from cloud to sun and temperature may change, affecting your tyre temps and things like that, but you haven't got to worry about the rain in this one. It's probably a good thing considering how difficult this track is. The variable speed rate is on 4, and the main race will start in the afternoon. So we should be close to a sunset type setting by the end. The sprint race will start early morning in terms of the time of day effect, that is, just for a bit of immersion and for the stream, so it will kind of show the progression through the day as if it was like a real race event, which is obviously what we're trying to replicate. Obviously most of these settings we know, but we start with a grid start with false start check, and obviously the grid setting fastest order first. BOP is on. You are permitted though to change your brake bias, but all of the settings are locked. Obviously boost is off, the slipstream is real, visible damage is on, and mechanical damage is heavy, which does mean it needs to be pit to repair. Tyre weight, as for this season, is now on ×6, with consumption on ×2. The refueling speed, as we said in the rules and in our season guide, has been reduced to 5 litres per minute. And you start with a full tank of fuel, which is 100 litres. The race finish delay is 180 seconds, so that should allow everybody to get to the finish line and classify. Qualifying for the main race is 10 minutes, so again with a 180 3-minute continuation at the end, meaning that as long as you get to the line before the 10-minute timer, obviously you'll complete your lap after that within that 180 second window. Tyre wear and fuel wear is off in the qualifying, so you can just go for as many laps as you can. For the sprint race, the qualifying time will be 5 minutes. Obviously it goes without saying that it's already locked that you can't use engine swaps, you can't use nitrous and anything like that. Penalties, obviously the track limit's on strong. We don't penalise you if you hit a wall. Wall's enough. Now if you wonder for new drivers why the car collision penalty is off, that's because all penalties relating to that will be applied post-race by the stewards, and I will go over the reporting process with you in a moment. The pit lane penalty, which we're going to cover in a moment visually as well, is incredibly strong here, as any of you on the race have known. Ghosting is set to weak, so what that means is you'll very much still have collisions, but when someone is spun or if there's been a major incident, the car should ghost. But again, I'm going to explain this visually on track in a moment and just go over what we expect when it comes to ghosting. Flag rules are on. Now, for those new to the league, drivers voted last year and we agreed that when you're under blue flags, you don't have to move out the way, and most of the time the faster drivers have said actually they want the person who's being lapped to just hold their line. It's more predictable if you start trying to move out the way and the driver behind's trying to get past you and you move into his way. That's going to, just if you slow down with closing speed, it's going to cause more issues. So if you are being lapped, you just need to hold your line. You don't have to just ease off and let them by, but any incidents involved where you're predominantly to blame against the car who's lapping you, you're going to be in the heavy side of penalties, so it's always worth being on that discretion. That doesn't mean that the car that's lapping you can just punt you off course and you'll get a penalty for it. That would still fall on them. They've got to overtake you responsibly as they would normally, but you're not racing each other. You know, if you're in a position where you're being lapped, you're being lapped to a reason, and that car's going to probably get past you anyway. So just drive normally, and that will take care of itself. Just to cover, obviously we had an incident last year where there was yellow flags and blue flags at the same time. It's again even more reason just to carry on and drive normally. So just going over your driving settings, because particularly for new drivers I need to cover something with you in a moment. So Obviously, your counter steer assistance is prohibited, as is your active stability management and auto drive are all prohibited. Traction control is unlimited, driving line assist can be used, and ABS is unlimited. But for new drivers, I just want to show you the setting that you must turn off from your assist settings, because for whatever reason we can't turn this off as lobby hosts. But down to this setting here, replace car after leaving track, you must have that disabled. If your car auto resets the track and you're reported for it, the burden of proof is going to be, you're going to have to show really that you didn't have this setting on. Now, a lot of the staff and stewards who are more experienced than myself pretty much know at which tracks where sometimes the game will force a return to track, but generally speaking it's going to be very obvious if you've got this assist on. It's just too big an advantage or lack of punishment for the incident you've had. Now sometimes it could be unfair because you may have been hit by the car behind 20 miles of course, but either way, one, I know we want a few settings like ghosting and things like that maybe aren't that realistic, but we want immersion. It's not realistic for a car just to be teleported back into the track. But the main reason is it's incredibly off-putting for anyone coming through and can actually lead to a bigger incident. So you must have that setting turned off. So particularly new, I think returning drivers, it's worth just double checking that you've got that setting off. But new drivers, I'll just show it quickly one more time. But yeah, it's imperative that you have this replace the car after leaving track assist turned off. Now, regarding reporting, we have added this year that you must submit footage. Previously, for drivers joining new, we were happy just for you to put the lap and the incident, we'll find it from the replay. Now, as stewards, we will still be using the replay to see all angles, but having the footage alongside your report just allows us to make sure we're definitely looking at the right thing. It will often support your argument when we can see the point that you're trying to raise in the report. Regarding stewarding, obviously our head steward is LLCC, who's completely independent from the race, and he's also the head steward for the Formula 1 team. And then the remaining staff, who will obviously contribute, but ultimately most of the time we will be taking the lead from LLCC, as he's completely independent from the racing. Any incident involving an ERL staff member, they lose any obviously right to be involved in discussions of that incident, just to make sure that you know that you have complete, whether we agree with decisions or not, they're always done with complete transparency. So if you want to raise a report, the report window opens at 10 p.m. British Summer Time after the race. I know sometimes I've been asked why is it so long after. It's for a few reasons. We need a cooling off period. You know, we all finish a race, don't we, at times, we're maybe a bit hot-headed at the moment. It gives you the chance to go and view the replay and think, actually, I know I felt that the guy ran me off the road, but did he actually, or was it a mistake from me? Was the room? It gives you the time to just review, do I want to put this report through? Obviously, if you do, you put your report in with the lap number, the ideally where if you know roughly where on the track it was, although I know you're going to have the footage to go along, it just helps us again when we're going through the replay. Tag who you're reporting, and then submit your description for the reason you're reporting, and then your video footage. Now, ideally, we would like high definition footage, so from the PlayStation recording system, I don't know if this will actually show on here, but from here, from your save recent gameplay, or from here, or from YouTube, Twitch is ideal. Worst case scenario, we can be a bit more flexible than our friends in the F1 Stewards team. If it has to be from a mobile phone, it has to be from a mobile phone. If it's I appreciate that was in technology, and then we can go into the replay to delve from that, but we would prefer high definition footage if possible. If you are the person reported, you obviously have the right to counter that report with one reply, and obviously you can submit your own footage if you feel that you have a different angle that benefits your case and the kind of the report that you've had against you. That is it, though. That's where it stays. We overstep this mark, and eventually we will introduce penalties if this carries on. It just makes the steward a nightmare if there's an ongoing discussion in the reports channel. So person reports, there is a right to apply any further conversations. If you want to do it publicly, you can do it in GT chat, provided it remains civil. Otherwise, take it to the DM messages, you know, if it's going to get heated. But have respect for your fellow driver. Every now and again, there's going to be an incident that happens with potential malice or malintent, but the majority of the time it's off a driver error or misjudgment. Let's keep it civil. We have a fantastic community here in the elite in GT7 tier and ERL, so let's keep it that way. But that's how the report process works. If you want to submit a report, you have to do it before 10 o'clock the next day. So it runs 24 hours, so from 10 p.m. on Sunday to 10 p.m. on Monday. If you've been reported and want to do your counter report, we can allow a small extension to you there. But generally speaking, we're going to be looking at going over these incidents on a Tuesday or at the latest Wednesday. So we can't give you a massive extension, but if you want a small amount of time, if you've been the person reported to put your counter together, that's fine. But if you want to report somebody, you've got to do it between 10 p.m. Sunday and 10 p.m. Monday. Stewards' decisions are final. There's no appeals because we can see every possible angle from the replay. We can see all the telemetry, so there is no appeals process. Any penalties accrued will always be done to that event in terms of time penalties. Obviously, if anyone picks up a qualifying ban or race ban, it will be applied to the next event. If you pick up penalties in the sprint race and qualify for the main race, those penalties will be applied in the main race. And one thing on here to touch, particularly for our GT drivers, is potentially those of you that qualify, especially, you've got more racing time, which is great. You also got more potential for incident, obviously, in that racing time. Now, the thresholds on licence points have remained where they are. So if you collect 15 licence points, you will have a qualifying ban for the next round. 25 points, it is a race ban. And at 35 points, we review the seat. It doesn't necessarily mean that you lose your seat. But if you've got to 35 points, quite a lot of things have had to have happened there. So just bear that in mind. I've seen more than anybody the amount of work that people have put in this week in practice, and we don't want to put this practice in to then ruin somebody's race. I'm going to very quickly do a slow lap around the track just to show a couple of features and things that we'll be looking for as stewards. It is live, so I do hope that I don't have a spin. But I just want to go over a couple of the key points visually on the track. So I think, as we all probably know here at this track, pit exit is going to be a little bit dicey, and it's normally a 3-second penalty if you cross that line. Now, I appreciate this will probably be one of the overtaken zones, and I'm going to go over weaving and slipstream and how you can defend in a moment, but I'm going to do that in the back straight, so I can probably show it better through there. Just going to do a nice slow lap through here. Again, if there are incidents and spins here which might block the road because of how narrow it is, I'm going to go over it again when we get to the really twisty section through there. Now, there's no such thing for me as no overtaking zones. I don't like it when someone says, well, you can never do a move through here. But I think it goes without saying that when we are coming through this section, we need to be ultra careful. If the driver in front of you makes a mistake, absolutely fine. But if you're looking to force moves through somewhere like here, you've got to be leaving room, and there isn't a lot of room on this track for you to leave. So it's important that we have discretion at all times, particularly early on in this race, and making sure that we're not forcing anybody off, we're not leaving room. In a minute, when we get to this next section, I'm going to go over unsafe rejoins. Now, obviously, we could unsafe rejoin absolutely anywhere, but particularly when we come into this middle sector here, it's incredibly tight. And probably at this next corner here is where there's one of the highest spin potentials when we go into what is almost a corkscrew. So if we've spun here and we're practically blocking the track, the ghosting will kick in. But my big point on ghosting, and I saw it abused a little bit in the podium championship we did, if it's continued to be abused, we'll remove it. And that way, there'll be more incidents, but there'll be more penalties and consequences. Just because your car is ghosted does not give you license just to do whatever you like, because people can drive through you. You need to treat this like you're not ghosted. If you're unfortunate spin here, you've got to let the traffic through. Okay, you can't just do a crazy unsafe rejoin. If at that point that you need to then come back onto the track, okay, you do it as safely as you can. Now, even tighter points through here, you're almost going to be doing like a 100-point turn. But as I say, you can't just rely on the ghosting. The drivers coming through, they who haven't had the incident, they don't know when you're going to unghost, and it could lead to a bigger incident. And even so, it can be off-putting for drivers, like we mentioned before. So I'd imagine this will be our main overtaking place down this straight. So I just wanted to go over what's expected, what you can do, what you can't. You can weave to break the toe. That is permitted, okay? That's in the rules of racing. However, once the car is within close proximity of you, and we class that as within, in the bottom right, within that inner radar, you can only then make one defensive move. So if you've weaved to break the toe and you're here and the car's there, you can make one more move. At that point, you cannot, as we're approaching this braking zone, move again as they're trying to come past you on the side. You've got to leave room. penalties are going to be severe if anyone's run out onto this grass or into this gravel. So that's how we expect you to defend when you're breaking the toe. And any areas that we come into here, room's got to be left, particularly when you're on the outside here and you're being run onto this grass potentially. Those penalties are going to be severe. We class alongside, as you've read in our rules of racing, as front wheels past the car ahead's rear wheels. That's how we class alongside, and that's where that driver has right to room. Before that, you know, the driver's got right to room, but you could have still end up having a collision if you turn in, if they're right on your rear bumper, so it's well worth considering. Just finally, another tricky pick exit. Obviously, I'm coming in at very slow speed. In the race, you'll be coming in quicker speed. I'd always be on the side of caution. It's incredible. Yes, you want to push and lose time, but it's a very easy place to get your 3-second penalty. Now, your pit stops, obviously, for you to factor in, and those who've done practice races will know, are going to be slower than they were last year. So that, again, is just something for you to consider when you're making your strategies. Because last year we had it on 15 litres per second, we're now down to 5. So your pit stops are going to be a lot longer than they were before. So just factor that in when you're planning on your race strategies, because you've known it in advance, particularly for our drivers that raced last year. It's going to obviously be a little bit different. That should cover everything. There is going to be a verbal briefing, but it won't be as extensive as this video. Just for me to finally say, as I say, I've seen the amount of practice you guys have put in this week. Let's have it a clean race. As we always say, race others as you like to be raced yourself. So race hard. It is GT racing. But one here, we've already combating one of the hardest tracks, if not the hardest track on the game. Let's just make sure that we're leaving room, we're being sensible, we're picking our moments. That on those straights, yes, you can weave and defend by all means, but as soon as that cars are in close proximity, especially when they're alongside, you've got to leave the racing room. Okay, but that covers everything for our pre-race briefing. Any questions, myself and the staff are here to help, and the verbal briefing will be with you shortly. Thanks all, and we'll see you on track tomorrow.